This is Rake's best action film, but as he tussles with several armed men, he realizes that his female teammate is sliding down a glass wall. Rake panicked and quickly took out the two enemies in the way, then quickly rushed up the stairs, seeing that the situation of his female teammate is getting more and more dangerous. At this moment, he was blocked by the enemies who came out again. This finally angered Rake, and his hand movements became even sharper. Then he slammed the enemy against the glass and sent them away. Then he crashed through the glass and fired several shots into the glass beneath him. The glass shatters and he grabs the frame. In a moment of crisis, Rake grabbed his female teammate, but the next moment, the boss who attacked them came out with a gun in his hand. And it all started 9 months ago. Rake was on a rescue mission in Mumbai, India, but just as he was finishing his extraction, he was shot through the neck by an AK from behind. He lost his strength and fell into the cold Ganges River. While everyone was suffering for the loss of Rake, his body was found on the downstream bank. Luckily, timely rescue helped save Rake's life, but it took 6 months for Rake to wake up from his coma. It was not until the 9th month that he was finally discharged from hospital. By then, Rake had lost all ambition and returned to his cabin in the countryside, intending to enjoy his retirement life without any further involvement in the world. But there's always a difference between thoughts and reality. That day, Rake had just returned from shopping when he found a big man in black waiting for him at the door. Rake didn't know this man, but his purpose was very clear. It turns out that he wants Rake to help rescue a mother and son who are in prison. The employer is willing to pay him millions of dollars. Rake quickly told him to put down his cup and drive away. It's a lot of money, but at this point, Rake has already decided to get out of the business. So he asked John to tell his employer that he wasn't interested in the job. John saw that Rake was so stubborn, so he revealed the employer's information to him. It turned out that the employer was Rake's ex-wife, Mia. Rake frowned in his tracks when he heard this. After John's description, Rake learned everything. It turned out that Mia's sister and nephew were being held in a Georgian prison by her sister's husband. Her husband, David, and brother, Diani, were so powerful in the region with a strong mob empire that no one dared to take the order. Mia had no choice but to ask Rake to help her. After hearing that it was his ex-wife's request, Rake finally chose to take the job, since the mission is in 6 weeks. So in the meantime, Rake began his rehabilitation. He had to bring his body back to its pre-injury state, which was the least he could do to ensure the success of the mission. Rake then called his partner Nick. Nick was surprised to hear Rake's plan, but eventually she agreed to lead the team and work with Rake to complete the mission. Soon after the mission began, Nick drove Rake to the outside of the prison in a bulletproof car. Rake then set out to infiltrate the prison on his own. With the guards paid off in advance, the operation went smoothly, and he soon found the cell where his sister and nephew were being held. When the sister saw that it was Rake, she woke the children from their sleep. But just as they were about to leave, the little girl's electronic toy fell to the floor and rang, and Rake reacted immediately. But the noise woke up a gang member. As a whistle blows, the whole prison is in an uproar. Rake didn't dare to slow down. He could only take 3 men and quickly rush outside. But by now, the prison was already on lockdown. With guards everywhere, Rake had no choice but to take the 3 men and break into a prison full of prisoners. When the prisoners saw the weapons in Rake's hands, they instantly swarmed over him. Rake had to protect his sister and her family while fighting off the prisoners. He knocked down each of the prisoners and wounded them with his pistol. After deterring the prisoners, Rake pulled out his explosives and stuck them on the door. Just as the inmates are swarming again, the bomb explodes. The bomb instantly shook all the prisoners over. Rake takes his sister and her family out quickly, following a pre-prepared route to the basement. As Rake was escorting the mother and son through the exit one by one, a burly man suddenly attacked Rake from behind. He hit Rake with a spanner in his hand. The sister tried to stop him, but he knocked her out. This man was the sister's husband, David, who continued to fight with Rake. David, as the boss of the gang, is really something. He was able to face Rake, who had fought many battles, and they fought back and forth. David picked up a shovel and attacked Rake, and the shovel was broken. And he was grabbed by Rake's head and pressed against the hot water tank. Rake then grabbed David's hand and broke all of his fingers. But in the end, Rake's combat experience was better, and he was able to take David out without a hitch. And it was this action that got Rake into trouble later on. At this time, waiting outside Nick has begun to urge. At the same time, a large number of prisoners also came out of the passageway. Rake had no choice but to take his sister and look for another exit point. But by this time, a serious riot has broken out in the prison. Heavily armed warning in front of a large number of prisoners, no resistance at all, and soon swallowed by the crowd of dens. At this time, Rake also began to lead his sister to fight in the crowd. Because if you want to get out of here, the only way is through the crowd. But it is clear that this road is not easy to go, because these prisoners are all desperados, and Rake's weapon is very attractive to them. So Rake has no choice but to fight back. One by one, the prisoners come forward to grab his weapon. Even if Rake kills them, there are still prisoners who are not afraid to die. But there were too many of them, and if he wasn't careful, Rake was attacked with a brick. He instantly went black and slowly fell down. At the same time, more riot police joined in the fight. This also bought time for Rake to escape. At this time, Nick also blew open the door to come to meet the two. But on the way out, Nick's brother Carl told Rake they just intercepted a raid. David's brother, Ande, was arriving with a large number of his men, so their priority now was to evacuate. Rake then blasted the gate with a Russo bomb. The team managed to get out of the battle, but soon something unexpected happened. A large number of vehicles appeared not far in front of them and attacked them. Luckily, they were traveling in bulletproof vehicles, so they were not seriously hurt. But just after leaving the pursuers behind, more armed men appeared in front of them. They had no choice but to make a quick U-turn and drive to another fork in the road. But that's not all. The gangsters keep chasing them. As soon as they dispose of one group, another group will appear. Seeing that the bulletproof glass has reached its final limit, Rake comes out of nowhere and takes out the two men who were close by. Shortly after, the vehicle entered a factory, but their pursuers weren't about to let them go. Their vehicle is blown over by a shell, and Nick rushes to give them cover. Nick immediately puts his car in front of Rake's vehicle. Rake has also freed a few people from the vehicle. The firepower of the other side is quite strong. Several people can only shoot back while quickly fleeing towards the factory. At this time, the receiving team was already waiting here. Rake rushed to carry the girl onto the train without saying a word. Because the girl's arm was seriously injured in the rollover just now, so we must first help the girl to treat her wounds. At the same time, the team reported a helicopter gunship approaching fast. So Rake handed the girl to Carl. He quickly moved to the container at the end of the train, found an M24 machine gun from a large number of weapons. Then at the helicopter was a fierce output. He shot out the helicopter's wing. The helicopter crashed. But no sooner had he taken out one helicopter than another came along. Rake went back to the train, opened the roof, raised the machine gun and fired, only to be overturned by a rocket in the next second and fell heavily on the train. At the same time, the helicopter militants also seized the opportunity, began to all down to the train, and soon on the driver's side of the Nick started to fight. The battle-hardened Nick wounded one man with a pistol. The other was wearing a bulletproof vest, so she had to fight them with her fists and feet. After a fierce struggle, Nick was able to send two of her enemies to hell by a narrow margin. The remaining gangsters have also arrived in the carriage and are approaching the sisters' group. In the nick of time, Rake quickly protruded from the side and began to struggle with the three men. He grabbed their weapons and hit them hard, even knocking them out with his gun. If he can't beat them with his hands, he pulls out his pistol and kills them. After successfully disposing of the men, Rake rushed to the driver's seat. At this moment, Nick had not yet recovered from the battle. After learning that Nick was okay, Rake was ready to take a look at the situation. As soon as he showed his head, a machine gun from the other helicopter opened fire on them. Rake quickly climbed to the top of the train, picked up his teammate's Gatling and fired another round, finally taking out the helicopter. But Rake is also horrified to realize that the train is about to reach the end of the line. He immediately returned to the train and used a rope to secure his sister's family to their seats. No sooner had he done this than the train rolled violently. Rake rolled with the train. The train finally came to a halt. Luckily, they had taken precautions in advance, so the train rolled over without affecting them in the slightest. Then they boarded a private jet, which had already been prepared. Carl hurriedly contacted the doctor, intending to find a place to treat the girl's wound first. However, the moment he put down his mobile phone, the boy's eyes were fixed on that phone. At the same time, on the other side of the world, Ande is looking at her brother's body in the morgue, thinking about what happened to the two brothers. It was hard for them to get to this point, but his brother left him first. Ande is furious and plans to avenge his brother's death. But on his way back to the base, he received a phone call. The caller was Rake's recently rescued nephew, Sandro. It turns out that his mother had been saying that his father, David, was going to kill him, so he wanted to call Ande to find out. What Sandro didn't know was that not only would he get no answers, but he would also reveal their whereabouts. Ande lied that their father couldn't have done it to them, and instead blamed Rake for the crime. A cynical Sandro believes Ande and decides to be Ande's mole and keep in touch. When he got back, Ande immediately started organizing his men. He told them that someone had come into our territory and killed our brothers. "You are all my brothers. My life is your life." At those words, the crowd was instantly energized and ready to move in with weapons. Rake had just finished treating the girl's wounds. He knew Sandro had a grudge, so he was ready to talk to him. But in the middle of the conversation, he saw a horrifying scene. What will happen to them next? And who will die as a result of Sandro's stupidity? This is Zero Sense Film. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.